What we should do now is maybe move this cube out of the way a little bit, and then actually start thinking about what we want to construct. So in addition to like the miscellaneous objects, the other cool objects are, if you go to common, there's basically just straight flat pieces, wheels, motors, gears. If you go to nuts and bolts, you have different sizes of nuts and bolts. If you go to C channels, there's an entire collection of C channel that you have access to. And so you can actually just start building any sort of prototype using these tools. However, the tricky part is to make sure that it actually is all attached together and that it doesn't fall apart as you start building. So I'll give you kind of some quick tips that I've found help. So if you go to, let's go to angles, and let's create a standing platform first. Nothing with wheels, something simple instead. So let's go here, let's create a 2 by 2 by 2 angle and have it sitting on this platform. So to do that, you have to click the 2 by 2 by 2 angle. Also switch to the auto tool, and it might help with snapping. Let's find out. Let's see what happens here. Yeah. Oh no, it doesn't work with the snapping. Anyway, switch back to move tool, and then lift it up. And then now make sure it's on top of the platform. There we go. And then let's get a piece of C channel and attach it so it's sticking up. So we'll go, or maybe let's get a plate and just attach the plate. So a 5 by 2 plate. Let's attach, let's lift that up, and let's rotate it like that. And then let's move it over. And you'll notice that it does snap a little bit, and that's helpful for lining your pieces. But you have to make sure, and this is the attention to detail here, you have to make sure that the pieces aren't overlapping. So see here, there's a bit of an overlap there. And you also have to make sure that everything lines up in all orientations. If you want these two pieces to go together directly, you can also switch to small snapping, and then gives you a little bit more fine control. But if you don't need the small snapping, I would switch back to medium or large grid, just because I've had problems with when I'm staying in the small snapping forever, it actually ends up causing tiny imperfections, which will end up causing problems later. Anyway, so there we have our two pieces. So it's a good start. And now we're like, good, they're ready to go. Let's run our simulation. And seems like it's put together pretty good. But you'll notice that this piece slid down. It actually didn't, they're not actually aligned anymore. So that's a problem. And that's the reason why, is because we need to use some nuts. Just like in real life, you have to use nuts and bolts. You don't actually have to use the nuts. You only need to use the bolts, or what they call the screws, for it to work. So now this is where the snapping comes in. So switch back to the auto tool. If you click screw, then you move your mouse over one of the holes, it'll actually snap to where you want to put it. So you click here, and then it'll pop it in there, and put it in that way. We can also take it, if we wanted it the other way, you can press the flip button, and then you would just have to move it into the correct position, like that. Then we take another screw. Oh, and it will only snap if you have the auto tool selected. So back to auto tool, screw, and then snap, and then click it, flip it, move tool, click it, move it in, and there we go. Now we have a piece, and if we test this, and you don't need the nuts, like I said, if we test this, it should not slide around anymore, which is good. It's all locked together. The cube fell, so we know gravity is active, but now these two pieces are locked in, so that's good. So now, what if we wanted to make something move? And that's where we're going to need to go back to our common tools, and there is the V5 motors. So if we go back to the snap, we might be able to snap the motor on. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out if it helps with snapping. So the snap tool I found is a little bit finicky. It doesn't always work the way you would want it to. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's allowing me to snap. But we can go back to move tool, we can lift it up, and then we can try to position it. So let's see if it's going to give us enough size. And we have a quick way of solving problems if it doesn't. So here, and let's put it in kind of a vertical orientation, maybe like that. And then let's lift it up a bit and move it into position. So now we can see you have to make sure it's aligned like that. And I think I need to bring it down 1 or maybe even a small fraction. It's looking okay. It's looking pretty aligned. If you're not 100% sure, you can also go to View and choose a different view. So this is the front view. And we can see, and then we go here and we choose Persp Ortho, and now it's completely flat projection. So here's the difference. If I press Persp Ortho again, you can see that they disappear. If I press, it's an orthographic projection, so it doesn't get smaller as it goes further away. Then I go back to and right view, I can see it's aligned. If I go back to front view, or I guess it's back view, now I can see that everything's lined up, and actually that's pretty good. If you wanted, you're like, oh, well, I want the motor to be a bit higher. Well, you can actually select this piece, and you'll notice that some of them, they have little pluses on the sides or minuses. Depending on the piece, it'll allow you to actually make it bigger, so I can make it wider on these sides. This particular piece doesn't allow me to make it taller, but some of them will, depending on which piece of channel you use. So I could actually move this like this, and then I could put the motor basically anywhere along here. And actually, if I want to move to this piece, I can switch to the large grid. Now that I know it's snapped in place, it'll actually be easier to just use large grid. You'll see how it kind of nicely aligns to all the different spots, and it's a bit more seamless. So we'll put that there. Let's put it on the far side. Deselect. Just left click anywhere to deselect. And now, if I want to attach this motor, I have to do the same thing I was doing before. So I need to actually screw it in. So I need to take some screws and, I undo, Control Z to undo, switch back to auto, take a screw and snap it in. But for whatever reason, they don't put them in the right orientation, so you're going to have to flip it. Where did it go? Oh, it ended up down there. Stupid thing. It's a little bit buggy. It's still in beta, so there's a few issues with the tool that you'll probably come to love. Let's switch back to small and get it moved a bit. Let's see if we can get this working. Switch back to snapping. Let's get another screw. And this one I might have to move myself. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna put it here just so it's a bit closer to work with. I'll get rid of this random screw that I didn't use. I'm gonna take this, flip it there, and then I'm gonna switch to this type of snapping, and select it and move it down. And then it should be in alignment, so then I can move it in. Perfect. Now, if I wanted to, I can also, instead of creating a new one, I can duplicate the one I have. To duplicate, you can press this button here, which is called clone, or I can press Shift D, and then here it goes, down. And now I have my two screws screwed in the motor, and in a perfect world, this would not fall. Let's find out. Ooh, I had one extra screw just hanging out there for some reason, so that's causing problems. Where is that extra screw? Let's see. No. No. Where's the extra screw? Oh, it's like floating inside the motor. Yeah, just a random screw floating inside there. So sometimes you might just have to get rid of that. There we go. Now we go back. And now that should be good. Now, because we have a lot of weight, the other thing that's going to cause problems is, and I'll show you, if we connect it again, if we run the simulation, it's going to fall. Because the motor actually has weight to it, right? And the physics isn't perfect. There's a little bit of a clipping error happening. But what could I do? Well, I have to mount it on the bottom too. So let's stop the simulation. I can press plus to extend it a little bit, so it has a little bit more platform. Then I could also press plus on the sides to extend it on the sides. This is the one I want to extend. Come on. There. And make this one smaller. So then that'll give us a bit more platform. But if I really want to be clear on making sure it doesn't fall, I should also switch back to snap and get some screws and put those in there. So let's put one here. Let's put one here. Let's put one here. And I'm going too fast here. One here. So now it's mounted into the floor and shouldn't move around. So then we press run. There we go. Nice and mounted down.